Imagine that tonight, before going to bed, someone tells you one simple rule. You must sleep outside. No house, no tent, no walls, no locked door, no flashlight, no phone, no weapon powerful enough to stop a lion. Somewhere beyond the darkness, hyenas are laughing. Leopards are silently moving through the trees. Snakes are searching for warmth. Mosquitoes carry diseases you can't even imagine. The temperature keeps falling, and sooner or later, you will fall asleep. Not because it's safe, but because your brain simply cannot stay awake forever. Sleep is one of the strangest things evolution ever invented. Every single night, it temporarily removes the one thing keeping you alive: your awareness, your attention, your ability to react. For several hours, you become slower, weaker, less aware, far easier to kill. If evolution is supposed to favor survival, then why would evolution create something so dangerous? Now imagine facing that problem, not once, but every single night, for hundreds of thousands of years. This wasn't an unusual situation. It was everyday life for ancient humans, long before bedrooms, before blankets, before pillows, before houses. Our ancestors still had to solve exactly the same problem we face every evening. Where can we sleep and still wake up tomorrow morning? Most people assume they simply found a cave, lay down, and went to sleep. But archaeology, anthropology, and modern sleep science paint a very different picture. The places where ancient humans slept, the way they organized themselves, the way they used fire, and even the way their brains remained alert while sleeping, may explain many strange behaviors that humans still have today. Tonight, we're going back to discover where ancient humans really slept, how they survived the most dangerous hours of every day, and why, even now, your brain still sleeps as if predators might be waiting just outside the firelight. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to Sketching Humanity. And now, let's travel back to a world where surviving the night was humanity's greatest daily challenge. At first glance, sleep doesn't make any sense. Imagine explaining sleep to an alien scientist. Every day, an intelligent species voluntarily becomes unconscious. Their vision disappears. Their reactions slow dramatically. Their muscles relax. Their awareness of danger fades. And they remain like this for roughly 1/3 of their lives. From a survival perspective, that sounds completely irrational. A sleeping animal cannot run as quickly, cannot fight effectively, cannot search for food, cannot immediately escape danger. For predators, sleeping prey is almost the perfect opportunity. So why didn't evolution simply eliminate sleep altogether? Because despite its enormous risks, sleep performs jobs that almost nothing else can replace. While we sleep, our brains organize memories, repair damaged cells, strengthen learning, regulate emotions, balance hormones, support the immune system. Even tiny amounts of sleep deprivation begin affecting judgment, attention, reaction time, and decision making. Remain awake long enough, and the brain eventually begins forcing brief moments of unconsciousness, whether you want them or not. Sleep isn't optional. It's biological maintenance. Evolution couldn't remove sleep because animals that never rested simply couldn't function. Instead, evolution found another solution. If sleep itself couldn't become safer, perhaps sleeping behavior could, and that single idea would quietly shape the future of humanity. Long before humans built shelters, before they mastered fire, and before they spread across the Ice Age, our ancestors may have spent many nights somewhere completely different, high above the ground. For millions of years, our earliest primate ancestors lived in trees. Branches offered something the ground could not: distance from danger. A leopard can climb, a snake can climb, but many large predators struggle to reach the highest branches. Sleeping above the ground reduced some risks, even if it created entirely new ones. Falling while asleep, strong winds, unstable branches, or sudden storms could all become deadly. Some modern great apes still solve this problem every evening. Chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans carefully build fresh sleeping nests from branches and leaves before sunset. Each nest is surprisingly comfortable, flexible enough to support the body, strong enough to remain stable throughout the night. Scientists studying these nests have even compared them to primitive mattresses. Our own ancestors probably inherited similar behaviors long before becoming fully human. But as human evolution continued, everything began changing. Our bodies became heavier. Our legs became longer. Our feet evolved for walking instead of gripping branches. The forests themselves changed. Across much of Africa, dense forests gradually gave way to expanding grasslands. Trees became farther apart. Food sources shifted. Large herds moved across open landscapes. Humans followed them, little by little. Our ancestors spent more time on the ground, and that created an entirely new problem. The ground belonged to predators, lions, hyenas, leopards, wild dogs. Sleeping safely had suddenly become much harder. Leaving the trees wasn't simply an evolutionary success. It also meant giving up one of nature's oldest sleeping places. From that moment onward, human survival would depend on finding entirely new ways to make the ground itself safe enough to sleep on. Once humans began sleeping on the ground, they faced a challenge unlike anything most of us can imagine today. There was no permanent bedroom waiting at sunset, no familiar address to return to, no guaranteed shelter. Every evening, the search began again. Where should we sleep tonight? The answer depended entirely on the landscape. In rocky regions, a shallow rock overhang might provide protection from wind and rain. In open grasslands, a group of fallen trees could become a natural windbreak. Near rivers, higher ground reduced the danger of flooding during the night. Every campsite became a careful balance between safety, comfort, water, food, and escape routes. Choosing the wrong place could be fatal. Sleep too close to water, and predators would eventually arrive to drink. Sleep too far from water, and tomorrow's journey became much harder. Camp beneath dead trees, and strong winds might bring heavy branches crashing down before sunrise. Choose exposed open ground, and freezing temperatures could steal body heat throughout the night. Our ancestors weren't simply looking for somewhere comfortable. They were constantly calculating risk. Every evening required dozens of small survival decisions. Where is the wind coming from? Where are animal tracks leading? Can we see approaching danger? Can smoke escape safely if we build a fire? Can everyone leave quickly if predators appear? Modern campers still ask many of these same questions. The difference is, we usually know we'll return home tomorrow. Ancient humans didn't. For them, the campsite itself was home, at least until the next sunrise, when the entire search might begin all over again. If there was one discovery that completely transformed human sleep, it wasn't the invention of houses. It was fire. Imagine standing on an African plain after sunset. As daylight disappears, the world changes. Your eyesight becomes weaker. Strange sounds grow louder. Shadows seem to move. Predators become more confident. For millions of years, night belonged to them. Then humans learned something extraordinary. A controlled fire didn't just produce heat. It completely changed the balance of power. Large predators generally avoid flames, not because fire makes humans invincible, but because fire creates uncertainty. Bright light makes approaching unseen much more difficult. Crackling sounds announce that something unusual is happening. Smoke carries unfamiliar scents across the landscape. Suddenly, the safest place at night wasn't hidden in darkness anymore. It was beside the fire. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have noticed something fascinating. Many groups naturally organize their sleeping areas around the campfire. The fire becomes the center. Families rest nearby. Beyond the light, darkness begins. That circle of light creates an invisible boundary between safety and uncertainty. The fire also transformed sleep in another important way. Before fire, nightfall meant activity largely stopped. After fire, people could remain awake for hours. They repaired tools, prepared food, shared stories, taught children, planned tomorrow's hunt. Knowledge that once disappeared with daylight could now continue flowing deep into the evening. Some anthropologists even suggest these quiet conversations around ancient campfires helped language become more sophisticated. The day became longer. Relationships became stronger. Communities became closer. Eventually, sleep itself changed. Instead of every individual trying to survive alone, entire groups rested together beside one shared source of warmth and protection. The campfire became far more than a tool. It became humanity's first nighttime guardian. And for hundreds of thousands of years, its glowing light may have represented the safest place any human could possibly fall asleep. Even after discovering fire, sleeping directly on the ground still created serious problems. Cold earth continuously pulled heat away from the body. Sharp stones caused discomfort. Moisture soaked into clothing. Insects crawled everywhere. If sleep was going to improve, the ground itself had to change. Surprisingly, archaeologists now believe humans solved this problem far earlier than most people realize. One remarkable discovery comes from Border Cave in South Africa. Researchers uncovered layers of carefully arranged grass bedding, dating back roughly 200,000 years. That means some ancient humans weren't simply collapsing onto the ground every night. They were preparing sleeping spaces. Even more fascinating, the grass appears to have been regularly replaced. Old bedding was removed. Fresh bedding was added. Some evidence even suggests burned plant material was placed beneath sleeping areas, possibly helping reduce insects. In other words, these weren't random piles of vegetation. They were intentionally maintained beds. Imagine gathering soft grass after a long day of hunting, carefully arranging it inside a protected shelter, covering it with animal hides, lying down beside your family, while a nearby fire quietly crackled through the night. Compared to sleeping directly on bare earth, the difference would have been enormous. Better insulation, greater comfort, less moisture, fewer insects, better sleep, and better sleep meant better survival the next day. The invention of the bed didn't begin with mattresses. It began with one simple realization. Sometimes, changing the ground beneath your body can change your chances of surviving tomorrow. If you could travel back 100,000 years, you would probably notice something surprising. Almost nobody slept alone. Today, many people have their own bedroom. Some even sleep in complete isolation. For ancient humans, that would have been almost unimaginable. Sleeping alone meant becoming the easiest target. One pair of ears can miss a sound. 10 pairs rarely do. One person may sleep deeply. Someone else remains lightly asleep. Another wakes instantly after hearing an unfamiliar noise. Together, the group became far more difficult to surprise. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have found that sleep inside the group is rarely perfectly synchronized. People naturally drift in and out of lighter and deeper stages of sleep at different times. Someone is almost always awake, or close to waking. Researchers sometimes call this the sentinel hypothesis. The idea is remarkably simple. Without planning it, a sleeping group may naturally provide continuous protection. One person adds another piece of wood to the fire. Another briefly checks the darkness. Someone hears movement in the bushes. Someone calms a crying child. No military schedule, no assigned guards, just many human brains following slightly different sleep rhythms. Whether every prehistoric group behaved exactly this way remains debated, but the principle makes evolutionary sense. Groups survive better than individuals. Night after night, families slept close together. Children remained near parents. Older adults stayed within the protection of the group. The fire burned at the center. Everyone else formed a loose circle around it. If danger appeared, the alarm spread almost instantly. Sleeping together didn't eliminate risk, but it dramatically reduced it. And perhaps that ancient habit still survives inside us today. Many children sleep better when someone else is nearby. Many adults feel safer sharing a room during dangerous situations. Even today, complete isolation during the night often feels strangely uncomfortable. Your brain may still remember something. That civilization has almost allowed us to forget. Although bedrooms have changed dramatically, our brains have changed surprisingly little. Thousands of generations ago, every unfamiliar sound during the night deserved attention. A snapping branch, heavy footsteps, low growling, moving leaves, ignoring the wrong sound could be fatal. Modern neuroscience suggests that even while sleeping, parts of the brain continue monitoring the environment. You don't remain fully unconscious. Instead, your brain constantly decides which sounds are important enough to wake you. That's why many parents awaken almost instantly when their baby cries. While sleeping through traffic outside, the brain has learned which signals matter. Scientists have also discovered something called the first night effect. When people sleep somewhere unfamiliar, one side of the brain often remains slightly more alert than the other. Sleep becomes lighter. People wake more easily. Even tiny, unfamiliar sounds attract attention. It's almost as if part of the brain refuses to trust the new environment. That reaction may seem inconvenient today, but imagine sleeping in an unfamiliar, prehistoric landscape. Remaining slightly more alert might have saved your life. Perhaps the strangest part is this. Most of us have never encountered a lion outside our bedroom. Yet many people still dislike sleeping in complete darkness, still lock the bedroom door, still wake after unexpected sounds, still check unusual noises before falling asleep again. These reactions aren't irrational. They're ancient. Your modern bedroom may be safe, but somewhere deep inside your nervous system, your brain still remembers a world where surviving the night required constant caution. Tonight, when you climb into bed, take one quiet moment to appreciate something remarkably ordinary. The mattress beneath you, the blanket keeping you warm, the walls around you, the locked door, the familiar sounds of home. To us, these feel completely normal. To an ancient human, they would have seemed almost unbelievable. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors searched every evening for the safest place they could possibly find. Sometimes beneath trees, sometimes beneath rocky overhangs, sometimes inside simple shelters, always hoping that everyone would still be alive when the sun returned. Little by little, they improved. Fire made the night safer. Beds made sleep warmer. Shelters blocked the wind. Families slept together. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Every small improvement made tomorrow slightly more likely. Eventually, those countless tiny improvements became bedrooms, homes, neighborhoods, cities, modern civilization, and yet, your sleeping brain still behaves much like theirs. It still listens for danger, still reacts to unfamiliar sounds, still seeks safety before surrendering to sleep. Perhaps that is the greatest reminder of all. Every comfortable night we enjoy today is built upon hundreds of thousands of years of prehistoric struggle. So the next time you close your eyes, remember that somewhere inside your brain, an ancient survivor is quietly standing watch until morning. If you enjoyed this journey into humanity's prehistoric past, let us know in the comments. What do you think would have been the hardest part about sleeping 100 years ago? We'd love to read your thoughts. And if you enjoy exploring archaeology, anthropology, evolution, and the incredible story of ancient humans, don't forget to subscribe to Sketching Humanity. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next journey into our prehistoric past.